is up, YouTube? We are back for the second training vlog of January. So we made some adjustments by now. By the time this comes out versus our just weekly vlog, I announced in then, but I'll announce here as well. So we pulled out of Western Australia. Going to focus on the show for Queensland instead. Body just wasn't responding in a way that I wanted to. It's also just, to me, I wasn't going to bring my 100% to WA, so I didn't really want to do it. And if I can't be 100%, I don't want to get up there. The extra few weeks of dieting, less stress of travel, less finance of travel, and all that sort of stuff that goes into it. I'm just going to put that week into extra dieting, whether it be a trial refeed, whether it be just a de-stress week, whatever it might be. But that less stress is going to yield a better look for Queensland, so that's going to be what we focus on. Food change this week, so we dropped some fats down. We're at 55 grams of fat instead of 65, but carbs are up to 220. Weight's hovering around 96.9, so I'm substantially leaner, but having this weird recompositional period where I'm hovering at 96 kilos, 96.7, 96.9, at a very lean position. Not shredded by any means yet, but glute lines are coming in, striations are coming out, abs are really starting to tighten up, so we'll probably do some posing today where you'll see a bit more of an actual visual look, but substantially different to where I've been, but hovering that same sort of weight. So it's interesting that carbs have gone back up, weight's hovering that 96.7, 96.9 position, and we're really just trying to now pull that weight down, as well as obviously improve the look. So interesting sort of occurrences. We've got now about 12, 11 weeks to lose 7 kilos and make it inside that under 90 bracket. If we get closer to the 88 bracket, we'll look at whether or not we do also classic physique this time. But again, I'm not going to force that if the look isn't there. If I'm shredded at 89 and the extra kilo and a half means I lose muscle, we're not going to worry about it. So we'll all play by feel and see how it goes. But yeah, we're just going to go with that. I've been posing with Chrissy Black. We've got some more content of that now, which is good, which has been going fantastic. So we'll do some posing after this as well. But today we've got upper body session. Had a little bit of sickness on Sunday, Monday. So pull back from that. Had Saturday, Sunday off to try and recover. So today's going to be the first real hard session this week. Lateral raises, lat pull downs, bicep curls, tricep extensions, tricep push downs, and they'll finish with some dumbbell raises, and then go into some pump ups. So Scaff wants to see my check-in photos at the gym under lighting, just seeing if the natural light that we get for check-in photos is washing out my physique a little bit, which I think it kind of is. But we'll see how that sort of plays out over the next couple of hours, get pumped up and then do some posing. So yeah, that's pretty much where this session is. Let's do it. So something we're trying to go back to is answering a lot more general training, prep, and coaching questions. Like we get very into the weeds of things, and trying to get very specific. But there's also a lot of stuff that's left unanswered that even athletes in prep forums, prep groups, coaching groups that are asking these same questions. So we're trying to go back to answering some of that stuff to give you guys the fundamentals still. You know, we don't want to get away from the things that we try to give and the basics we try to give away. One of the questions a question that was put forward by someone was, should they be eating back the calories they burn? Regardless whether in prep or training, it was a coaching group question that was there in one of those like Facebook coaching forums. It was like, should I eat back the calories that I burn? Long and short of it is no. The nuances to it matter for specific reasons. Most people and most watches, even the most advanced, technically sound watches at the moment on the market, are variable anywhere between 20 to 40%, if I remember the research correctly, we did exercise science, in terms of their accuracy. Now that means it could be upwards of 40% above the number you had as your true number, upwards of 40% below that number. So this person, let's say in the question, she discussed that she had burned 250 calories in a session. Firstly, not that many calories. Secondly, the accuracy of that could be so far off. Now, an extra 40% of that, could take her to, could have been 350 calories. Below that, it could have been 150 calories. Could have been next to nothing. The variability inside that matters because what you think you're eating back is too scattered to be accurate in consumption. The other side of that is eating back calories implies that you are training for the intent to burn food off. And that is the wrong approach to have, not only physiologically, but psychologically as well. We're not training to burn off food. We're not training to earn calories. We're not training to burn off the food that you consume so that you can go and have something else. I'll see people all the time like, I ate a jar of peanut butter, so my solution was 5 hours on the Stairmaster. That isn't the solution or the approach to the problem. There is a problem behind why you had a jar of peanut butter, but the answer isn't get on the Stairmaster for 5 hours to make up for it. You are not going to burn the likely calories you need to offset what you did. The best approach is simply stick to your caloric target, irregardless of whether you've trained to 1,000 calories, 2,000 calories, because what will happen is that is inside your TDR, your total daily energy requirements, right? You're going to, those outputs, those exercises, those training numbers are all going to be a constituent inside that total equation. So when I'm programming your macros, your calories, it's considered of how you're training and what your average weight trend is doing. So eating that back is offsetting whatever work we're trying to do. On top of that, the mental or psychological approach to whether you've burnt something off is going to develop a horrible relationship with food and a horrible relationship with eating disorders and things that we already know are prevalent in our industry. So the idea of re-consuming what you burn is a horrible approach. Do not do it. Stick to what the targets are that you have or the calories you have, unless advised otherwise, and I still can't think of a reason why you would do it. Maximizing your cable lateral setup. One of the ways I like to do this, have the cable set to about knee height. Why? Because we're trying to engage a maximum amount of tension in the stretch position. Yes, stretch hypertrophy is becoming very popular. Lengthened position is becoming very popular. We want to make sure that we're in an engaged, tense position the second we take the load, right? So having it at knee height, we're engaged at a resistance curve that is maximizing the stretch position and keeping tension on the shoulder. Taking a step away from the machine, the second I now take that load, tension is engaged the minute I execute the rep. So from start to finish, we have engagement and tension on the lateral head of the shoulder versus whether I'm over here and have to take it out here to try and get tension. So take a step. It's at knee height. We're going to push the knuckle down and drag away in an arc fashion to maximize the range of motion of the shoulder. Down, out. Control, stretch. Down, out, control, stretch. What are some long-term health markers that you should aim for? This is a good one because people often look at coaching or training, fitness, nutrition, physique composition as a short-term goal, like I'm gonna do it in my 30s or 20s, what have you. But we need to also change the lens, change the perception, and look at what these markers in health and training, exercise, nutrition is doing long-term. So some of the things that you can look at are tracking the average trends of weight. Yes, it's a very fundamental one. Sleep at the very basic level, just having understandings of what your sleep cycles are like. But looking at specific metrics, looking at your heart rate, looking at your blood pressure, looking at your fasted blood glucose, or whether it be insulin, whether it be your HbA1c and your blood test markers that you get done. Having a look at those factors primarily, very important. Getting your sex hormone profile done is important over the long term. You want to see the trends of what your testosterone is doing, estradiol is doing, what your progesterone is doing, but also looking at like your FSH, your LH, see what these hormones are doing in the body, have an understanding of what's going on. Some other things, get an understanding of just cholesterol levels. What is your cholesterol doing? Having a look at your HDL, your LDL, what the total ratio is. Have a look at how that is projecting over time. Is it going up? Is it going down? These aren't all be-all, end-all numbers, but they do give pretty decent radiuses of health. You want to look at what's going on the long-term time horizon. Is my heart rate variability fluctuating at crazy levels? Is my heart rate at rest super high over long periods of time? Is my blood pressure skyrocketing or increasing on average? These things start to give you trends and predictability, and then we compare that with things like body composition, your output levels, your exercise, and see what is actually happening with your body and how healthy are you. And then obviously just getting full panel blood work done over time is an amazing tool to have, but getting those things done consistently, once a quarter, half a year, and then things like your blood pressure, you can get a blood glucose monitor and your heart rate. You can do those 3 things from home, super cheap, and do them consistently on average 3 to 4 times a week and get very accurate data that will tell you long-term what's going on with your body. So there's some of the metrics to look at long-term health, paired with obviously your sleep and weight levels, and you'll get a lot of information out of that that's going to tell you a very big picture. Here's a really easy question. I've actually had a few times recently, and it's not one of those like, people have been asking me, like I've actually had people question and ask. One of the things that I want to give some more information on is things like structuring nutrition and diet. So the question I've been getting is like, how do I start with maintenance, or how should I structure my macros? What's the good numbers to aim for based on these lifestyle factors? So without nuance of knowing anyone's lifestyle or anything like that's going on, some really easy strategies to use besides like online macro calculators, but just getting started. It's a very simple strategy. Average male physique, 90 kilos plus, trying to find maintenance or balance in their weight, their physique. I generally start about 30 to 35 calories per kilogram. I'll look at making up 2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram inside those calories. I'll look at anywhere from maximizing 0.7 to 1 gram per kilogram of fats, dietary fats, predominantly from mono and polyunsaturated fat sources. And then the rest of those calories will be carbohydrates. Now, once you go past that 0.7 gram per kilogram mark, you can fluctuate those calories between carbs and fats however you want. But generally what I find with that, paired with good fiber intake, meaning like we're looking at 10 to 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories, we're going to have a pretty good response to your body and at least getting a baseline of nutrition. So with that is like a really easy way to structure just getting started. Now obviously, like again, coaching is where the nuance comes in of modifying things, getting things right earlier, understanding more lifestyle variables. If you have a labor intensive job versus a desk job, it's going to impact whether I give you the higher end of that maintenance or lower end. But for the most part, throwing out something like that, starting there, tracking your weight for 2 weeks, you're going to get a pretty good baseline of what's going on. If your weight's increasing, you can pull it down. If your weight's holding, you found maintenance. So again, this is where measurement is important because it gives you baseline trends and data. The measurement itself is not an emotional stimulant. We're not trying to trigger any problems. It's giving you accountability, responsibility, and ownership over the numbers. And from that, you can make decisions on what's going on. And you can start to see, hey, this is right or wrong. What I'm eating is too much. What I'm not eating, what I need to eat more, etc., etc. So start with that and you'll figure something out. Do you prefer volume or intensity? Now, this question is something that I wanted to answer for a while anyway. I think I've put out content on it before, but the argument going back and forward on volume versus intensity, right? We have this camp of people that think that they can increase volume, and it's going to drive a stimulus. It's true. We've also got people that can drive up intensity, which will increase stimulus. What I try to find with clients, what I try to get to with clients is, as my clients get more advanced, or I advance them along, I guess what you call like the training age or the training experience spectrum, whilst we understand that in the research, to create a new novel stimulus to force a signal for hypertrophy, create progressive overload, we do need to increase a degree of intensity, right? We do need to increase a degree of volume that is exposed to the muscle. But one of the things that I find is, as clients improve proficiency of training, meaning going from beginner to intermediate to advanced, as they increase the proficiency of the skill of training, the skill of execution, the skill of movement patterns, the volume required to generate stimulus decreases because they know how to train harder and they know how to train and execute movements better, meaning they're placing more tension on the target muscle. They're creating a greater signal and stimulus for hypertrophy because load is greater and it's more concentrated on the area we're trying to train. So a lot of the time I find people jack up volume because they're not getting the response they want in their training capacity, because they simply aren't training correctly, they aren't training the right way, they aren't training with sufficient intensity or proximity to failure. When you can merge the two, it doesn't become a this or that problem. It becomes a how do we maximize both with a degree of consideration for recoverability and allowing the body to adapt without overdoing it. So that's where I try to focus on understanding the argument, I guess, for lack of better words, in regards to intensity and volume, is that it's managing both in a way that the person gets better, the skill improves, and generally what I find is the volume comes down as their training proficiency increases and their intensity matches it. So it kind of balances itself out. I get it to decrease the volume for the client. How often should you practice posing? In a prep, this is something you should escalate. You do need to make sure that you have posing condition on stage, meaning you can go through call-outs, handle rotations, being swapped around, catch your breath without losing condition, sweating too much, spilling your tan. I like to start with clients 3 to 4 times a week, 10 minutes, and then escalate and build up from there. Posing can be very exhausting, can be very, very fatiguing, but getting essentially conditioned for posing is important. Making sure that you can hold your shots, hit your shots, feel your shots out, progress the intensity of your posing practice. Take mirrors away, be mindful, try to feel your body in space, appropriate reception of where you are, where each muscle is to make sure that it lines up properly. It takes time, takes practice. So in prep, I start with 3 to 4 times a week. As it progresses, we need to increase that intensity and duration. It might go to every single day, 10, 15 minutes a day, work your way up, holding shots for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever it might be. It's usually a really easy piece of advice for in prep posing practice to nail that skill. Post-show weight gain emotions, please help. Okay, so again, another common question getting dumped in these coaching feedback groups, coaching forums, group forums, training forums, prep forums, etc. Is post-show weight gain emotions. When I see someone is not aware of or is emotionally reactive to the idea of weight gaining in a post-comp phase, in a post-comp health phase, in a post-comp rebound, it generally tells me that the coach hasn't educated the client before prep starts or even during the prep what is expected to happen after the show. A lot of the time people get this idealized version, this magical unicorn version of what's going to happen on show day, and how majestic it's going to be, how beautiful it's going to be, how good they're going to look, the glamour of it all, the glitz and excitement, but they aren't prepared and aware of what's going to happen post-show. So before you go into this season, if you're coming into season A now, the biggest thing that I can prepare you with is to set yourself up for the expectation that your season doesn't end on show day. Your season ends 4 to 8 weeks after the comp when you're back to being healthy, or at least to a degree, a healthier parameter. So for me, that means being aware of the fact that you need to gain back weight. The body needs a balanced level of body fat, a balanced level of energy intake, and an overall systematic replenishment to make sure that it's operating at a healthy functional level. That is going to require you to bring your baseline weight back up, meaning you can't stay at your show condition forever. If you aren't prepared to have that conversation or take that feedback on board, probably don't compete, because it means you aren't actually prepared to compete. You aren't prepared for the show. As I said, your season doesn't end on show day. Your season ends 4 to 8, 12 weeks post-comp when you're back to being somewhat healthy and can now go into a life or growth phase. So understand straight off the bat, the first 4 weeks, I usually aim to have a client within about 10% up from their show stage weight in that reverse phase. Now, that can vary on individual people based on their psychology, their emotions, their reactivity. Some people just do have a more neurotic approach or neurotic personality trait, so I'm cautious with how we progress them. Some people will just go straight back to maintenance and gain body fat back on. It's all about understanding the individual client, but in that post-show phase, if you're emotionally reactive to the fact that weight is going back up, you likely aren't aware of or prepared for the fact that that needs to happen. It is an inevitable part of the season to you getting healthy again. So take that awareness into this season if you're competing, that it is for your health and your best interest to get healthy after the show by gaining some weight back on. That doesn't mean blow out and get fat, doesn't mean just go get an absurd amount of food and calories in, but you are going to experience some weight gain. Now with that, have some post-show goals around your body, around your health, around your markers, around your training, life, some enjoyment factors. Some of the things that I get clients to do to control that emotional reactivity is set some goals to go do some things that you hadn't done in prep. Maybe a run, maybe a different type of exercise, maybe a social event that you put off. Doesn't mean go get drunk, doesn't mean go do drugs, doesn't mean get yourself absolutely plastered. It means go do some things that are different or that you've restricted for prep's sake that you might have otherwise felt is missing, and you want to put that back in your life to help manage those emotional reactions that are going to happen post-comp. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of nuance. We're putting it into the lecture coming up, but for this sake, let's just start with the fact that you should be prepared now, 12 weeks out from comp, 13 weeks out from comp, that you will gain weight post-show. It is inevitable for you to get healthy, that some weight is going to occur. You cannot stay in the condition you're in and be healthy and get weight back up. It's just not how it works. So weight will come back on, you will get a little bit softer, prepare for that, and you're going to control a lot more of your emotions after the season. How can a coach help a client feel heard? I mean, again, this whole period of questions is really just taking questions that are being exposed in groups and things like that. But feeling heard to me, that's a painful question to read. To me, I rarely try to attack coaches. I rather attack the point. But if you're as a client not feeling heard, there's some worrying signs there of the relationship you have with your coach. For me, I beg my clients to stay in contact with me. I beg my clients to use me, to message me, come to me with problems, inform me if things aren't working. Going to your client, having them understand that the relationship is built on communication, understanding. Understanding when the client comes to you with a problem, you need to reinforce that that was the right move. Something went wrong, something happened, or it didn't work out, or this wasn't happening, and the client's approached you, or as a client you've approached your coach. Validating that that problem was real is important. You need to accept that something may have gone wrong, that you're part of that as a coach, you're part of that problem. There may have been something that didn't line up, and then helping that client understand like it was the right thing to do to come to me with this problem. The ability to have autonomy and some decision making, some critical thinking to say, hey coach, this didn't pan out, or this isn't working, or something feels off. I might be able to reconfirm your problem, your thoughts, explain myself a little bit clearer, or explain to you what's going on. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you might have misunderstood the point, or like, hey, this was actually what was supposed to happen, or this is what's happening. But if you're at a point as a client where you're not feeling heard by your coach, I am concerned that that is a state of coaching that exists. There is, by all means, a certain point in a coaching relationship where there's dictatorship, and I'm telling you this has to happen to get to that next level of condition. Sometimes, a lot of the time, there isn't a debate side. If I know the process works, just you're sticking to it, and we're not going to accept anything else. If a client goes on travel, if a client's on holidays in prep, if a client's doing something, oh, I had this family event come up during a prep, whatever it might be. You don't have the room to miss. So if you're going to go do those things, you have to be prepared. But in saying that, if an exercise feels like it's hurting you, if something happened and you missed the mark, if something happened and you overconsumed food, or like the tracking of the calories wasn't working, it's not to say you're wrong for bringing that up. You have every right to bring that to the coach. It's about the relationship, the dichotomy, the reciprocity, the back and forward, the communication that you're trying to have with a coach and a client that makes a huge difference. So to me, yeah, making you feel heard is important. Again, it doesn't mean that every single problem you come to me with is true. There are points in time where you're coming to me as a professional that I'm going to say, hey, you're actually just wrong, or that isn't what's happening. I think you're a little bit like there's some emotionality to this number, to this data point, to this statistic, to this principle, whatever it might be. But it's not that I'm going to invalidate your inability to come speak to me. So yeah, I'm concerned that that's even a state of coaching that exists, and it's something that I would not wish on any of my clients, and I hope to God none of my clients experience, because that is not what I'm about, nor what I encourage. Do you coach night shift workers differently? Again, looking at general questions. Night shift athletes do still compete. Night shift athletes do still work on body composition. Night shift workers, FIFO nurses, Defence Force, emergency services, overnight trades. A lot of people work in the night shift industry. You would just refer it to the night shift industry under that umbrella. So yes, we absolutely do coach a lot of FIFO and night shift workers, have done for many years. And yes, there is a degree of difference in coaching them because you have to be understanding their roster and their shifts, right? A lot of the time, it won't be a permanent night shift roster Some clients will do like one swing at night shift, a week off, one swing at day shift, a week off, swing back to night shift, etc., etc. So you got to be cautious of how their shifts line up, because you have to reconfigure your circadian rhythm and try and get the body back to a normality as much as possible. The goal with night shift workers is to have them develop patterns and systems to be as close to a normal life as possible. We do understand that looking at circadian rhythm and the natural circadian rhythm of the human body at every cell level, it does want to follow a day and night pattern. So being awake at night does fluctuate a lot of things. It does impact sleep quality, does impact hormone levels, does impact stress levels, recoverability, exhaustion, perception, fatigue, all that jazz. A lot of the time it's offset by caffeines and stimulants, so it's going to jack up the central nervous system. It's going to exacerbate your autonomic nervous system, so your fight or flight response is quite high and exacerbated. So there are a lot of conscious approaches you have to be cautious of when it comes to night shift workers. The biggest factor for us is structuring their sleep and making sure that whatever sleep they do get, it's as complete and full as possible to maximize the profiles that come from the sleep cycle. So meaning that we're running through N1 to M4, REM sleep, non-REM to REM sleep, making sure that you're working your way through those sleep cycles, make sure you're reaching those sleep cycles, making sure that you're cycling through 4 cycles, 5 cycles a night, as close to the 7 to 9 hour window as possible. Unfortunately for a lot of people, one of the biggest things that they don't have is like blackout blinds. The visual pathway, your optical nervous system, is very sensitive to light in the mornings. Our body is very responsive to melatonin and cortisol. Cortisol being elevated first thing in the morning, melatonin being decreased. So you are a lot more sleep sensitive and alert sensitive in the mornings because you are supposed to be awake. So having people get blackout blinds, earphones and eye masks are essential to sleep quality for my night shift workers. Because yes, I want you to wake up to an alarm, but I also want to make sure that you're getting optimal sleep. So nutrition and lifestyle training factors, I just kind of move the day forward. So, if your day normally starts in the morning, I would just consider your morning to be that afternoon. So we just shift that forward. The main priority is around structuring their sleep and their sleep health to make sure that that's as optimal as possible. Oh, tune. All right, so vlog 2, January done, upper body session, posing. I've got to go home and finish some cardio, get stuck into the day, still make sure we're maintaining the business, keeping everything up and running, and make sure we're maintaining our standard, refuse to let that drop in prep. Coaching spots are still available, running those right through prep up until I realize I can't serve anyone anymore properly. I can't obviously take on any more clients and operate at my level of standard I want to operate at. So consults are still available. Make sure you book in, make sure that you get in now. Have a chat, it's free. Figure out how we can best serve you, figure out what your goals are, make sure you get involved, and yeah, let's own 2025.